There's an old saying about not knowing what you have until it's gone. Most people nod along when they hear it, but few truly understand the weight of those words until they live through them. In relationships, this truth reveals itself in the most unexpected ways. A woman might convince herself that she doesn't need the man who's been giving his all. She might believe his love is guaranteed, that he'll always be around no matter how she treats him. But human nature works in mysterious ways. The moment he decides to prioritize himself, everything changes. Her perspective shifts. Her feelings evolve. And suddenly the man she barely noticed becomes the only one she can think about. What's fascinating is that the missing doesn't start while he's there. It doesn't happen when he's calling, texting, or showing up every day. It begins the second he stops, when his energy withdraws. When the noise of his affection fades into stillness, that's when her mind starts to race. That's when regret creeps in. Let's explore the psychology behind why women begin to miss men they once overlooked and how this transformation unfolds. Think about the last time someone was always available to you. Maybe a friend who always picked up the phone. Maybe a family member who never said no. At first, their availability feels comforting, but over time, you stop noticing it. You assume it's just how things are. You take it for granted. The same thing happens in love. When a man is always present, always forgiving, always patient, his actions become invisible. They blend into the background. She stops seeing them as special because they feel normal. But normalcy is a dangerous illusion. What feels like a routine is actually a choice. Every time he reaches out, every time he forgives, every time he shows up, he's making a decision. He's choosing her. And choices, by their very nature, can change. The problem is, she doesn't realize this until the choice stops being made. That's when the shift happens. That's when everything he did starts to stand out. When he finally pulls back, when he stops giving his energy so freely, the absence hits differently. At first, she might not even recognize it. She thinks he's busy. She assumes he's giving her space. She tells herself it's temporary. But as time passes, the absence grows heavier. The phone that used to light up with his messages stays dark. The voice she heard every night is gone. The reassurance she once dismissed is nowhere to be found. And in that emptiness, something stirs inside her. Psychologists talk about something called loss aversion. It's the idea that losing something feels more painful than gaining something feels good. When she had his attention, it didn't feel like much, but now that it's gone, the loss feels enormous. Her brain starts replaying moments she barely noticed before. The way he always checked in, the way he remembered little details about her day, the way he stayed calm when she was anything but. These memories weren't significant when they happened, but now they feel priceless. Here's where it gets interesting. The human mind doesn't handle uncertainty well. When someone is predictable, we relax. We know what to expect. But when that predictability vanishes, our minds go into overdrive. She starts asking questions. Why isn't he calling? Did something change? Did I do something wrong? These questions loop endlessly, and each one brings her closer to a truth she didn't want to face. She took him for granted, and now she's paying the price. This is where the real missing begins. Not because she suddenly loves him more, but because his absence forces her to see what was always there. The effort, the consistency, the loyalty. She didn't value those things when they were happening. But now, without them, life feels off balance. Something is missing, and she can't ignore it anymore. Let's talk about something most people don't consider. Silence. We live in a world obsessed with words. We believe that talking fixes things, that communication is always the answer. But sometimes silence says more than 1,000 words ever could. When a man stops explaining himself, when he stops trying to convince her of his worth, when he simply goes quiet, it creates a void, and voids have power. She's used to hearing from him. She's used to his voice filling the gaps in her day. But now, there's nothing. And that nothing is louder than anything he ever said. Silence doesn't argue. It doesn't plead. It just exists. And in that existence, it forces her to sit with her own thoughts. She can't dismiss silence the way she dismissed his words. She can't twist it or rationalize it. It's just there, heavy and unavoidable. What makes silence so powerful is that it communicates strength. When a man stops chasing, it shows he values himself. It shows he's not willing to beg for a place in someone's life. That shift changes how she sees him. Before, she might have viewed his persistence as neediness. But his silence? That's confidence. That's self-respect. And those qualities are attractive in ways desperation never is. Psychology tells us that we're drawn to what we can't have. When he was always available, she didn't have to work for his attention. But now that he's pulled back, her brain sees him differently. He's no longer a sure thing. He's a challenge. And challenges spark curiosity. She starts wondering what he's doing, who he's talking to, whether he's thinking about her. That curiosity turns into longing, and longing turns into missing. But it's not just about wanting what she can't have. It's deeper than that. His silence makes her reflect. She starts thinking about all the times he was there when no one else was, the late nights when she needed someone to talk to, the moments when he showed up without being asked, the patience he showed when she didn't deserve it. These memories flood back, and with them comes a realization. She had something real, and she let it slip away. There's another layer to this. When a man is consistent, he creates a rhythm in her life. She gets used to hearing from him at certain times. She expects his presence in certain moments. That rhythm becomes part of her routine, part of her emotional structure. But when the rhythm breaks, everything feels off. It's like a song missing a beat. She notices the gap, and it bothers her more than she thought it would. Consistency is underrated. People chase excitement, spontaneity, passion. But consistency is what builds trust. It's what creates safety. When he showed up every day, she felt secure. She didn't have to wonder. She didn't have to worry. And even though she didn't acknowledge it, that security mattered. It shaped how she moved through her world. Without it, she feels untethered. Now, she's comparing every interaction to what she had with him. A new conversation feels shallow. A new person feels uncertain. Nothing matches the steady energy he brought. And that comparison is painful because it highlights what she lost. She didn't just lose a person, she lost a feeling, a sense of stability, a quiet confidence that someone cared without conditions. Here's the thing about regret. It doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly, piece by piece. First, she notices the absence. Then she starts remembering. Then she realizes what those memories meant. And finally, she understands that she can't get it back. That's when regret becomes unbearable. Because it's not just about missing him. It's about missing the version of herself that had him and didn't appreciate it. Regret also carries guilt. She knows she didn't treat him the way she should have. She remembers the times she ignored his calls, dismissed his efforts, or took his patience for weakness. Those moments haunt her now. They replay in her mind, each one a reminder of her mistake. And guilt is heavy. It doesn't fade easily. It lingers, pressing down on her chest every time she thinks about him. What makes this even harder is that she can't undo it. She can't go back and change how she acted. She can't erase the moments she took him for granted. All she can do is live with the consequences. And those consequences feel heavier every day. Because she's not just missing him. She's mourning what could have been if she had valued him when she had the chance. Now let's talk about something most people don't want to admit. Energy is irreplaceable. Every person carries a unique energy. It's not just about what they say or what they do. It's about how they make you feel. Some people drain you. Some people excite you. And some people, rare people, make you feel at peace. He was that for her. His energy was calm, steady, reassuring. She didn't realize how rare that was until it was gone. When she tries to move on, she notices it immediately. Other men don't feel the same. They might be charming, they might be fun, but they don't carry the same weight. Their words feel empty. Their actions feel performative. And no matter how hard she tries to convince herself otherwise, she knows the truth. They're not him. Psychology explains this through something called emotional imprinting. When someone makes you feel a certain way repeatedly, your brain creates an association. His presence became linked to safety, comfort, and care. Now, every time she's in a situation where she needs those feelings, her mind goes back to him. Not because she wants it to, but because that's the imprint he left. This is why moving on feels impossible. It's not just about finding someone new. It's about finding someone who makes her feel the way he did. And that's not easy to replicate. Energy isn't something you can fake. It's authentic, organic, and deeply personal. His energy was shaped by his values, his character, his way of loving. And that combination is unique. No one else will bring the exact same thing. She starts to see this in small ways. A new person might text her, but the messages don't hit the same. Someone might compliment her, but the words don't carry the same sincerity. She goes through the motions trying to feel something, but it all feels hollow. And in that hollowness, she misses him even more. Here's the painful truth. She realizes too late that what she had was rare. Most people don't love the way he did. Most people don't stay patient when things get hard. Most people don't forgive without holding grudges. She thought his loyalty was common. She thought any man would do the same, but experience is teaching her otherwise. And that lesson stings. The missing intensifies because it's layered. She doesn't just miss him. She misses the way he saw her, the way he believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself, the way he stayed when everyone else would have left. That kind of love doesn't come twice. And knowing she had it and lost it feels like losing a part of herself. What amplifies the regret is the realization that she caused it. He didn't leave because he stopped caring. He left because she stopped valuing him. He chose himself because she didn't choose him. And that truth is hard to swallow because it means she can't blame anyone else. She can't point fingers. She has to own her part in the loss. This ownership is painful but necessary. It forces growth. It forces reflection. She starts to see patterns in how she treated him, the times she prioritized others, the moments she dismissed his feelings, the ways she tested his patience. These patterns reveal something about her, something she didn't want to see. And facing that truth is uncomfortable. But discomfort leads to change. She begins to understand what real love looks like. Not the surface level excitement or the fleeting passion, but the quiet, steady, unwavering kind. The kind that shows up without being asked. The kind that forgives without keeping score. The kind that stays even when it's hard. She had that. And she didn't protect it. Now, every day without him feels like a lesson. She's learning what she should have valued. She's understanding what Jinda E truly matters in a relationship. And while that growth is valuable, it comes at a cost. The cost of losing someone who loved her genuinely, the cost of regret that won't fade, the cost of knowing she let something irreplaceable walk away. So why does she start missing him? Not because he's chasing her, not because he's proving himself, but because his absence revealed his value. Because silence spoke louder than words. Because consistency turned into emptiness. Because respect grew in the space he left behind. Because memories became reminders of what she threw away. Because no one else feels like him. And because the security she once ignored transformed into a regret she can't escape. The truth is simple but profound. People don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. And by the time she realizes what she lost, he's already moved on. He's chosen himself. He's found peace in his own worth. And while she's left replaying memories and drowning in regret, he's building a life that no longer includes her. That's the price of taking someone for granted. That's the cost of assuming love will always wait. And that's the painful lesson she'll carry long after he's gone. Act as a professional YouTube scriptwriter and storyteller. I will paste a competitor's script, analyze its topic, hook, storytelling style, emotional flow, and audience interest. Then create a 100% original script based on the same core idea. Never copy, paraphrase, or reuse the competitor's wording, characters, examples, or story. First, provide 1 high CTR title, 3 alternative titles, 1 thumbnail text, 8-9 words. Then write a 2,500 word script in simple, natural English that feels written by a real human. Create a fresh hook every time, inspired by the competitor's hook structure and emotional impact, but completely original. Keep the story content engaging, emotional, easy to understand, and curiosity driven from beginning to end. Add realistic examples, smooth transitions, emotional moments, and a satisfying ending. Rules: no channel name, no headings, no chapters, no bullet points, no scene directions, no robotic language, no unnecessary filler. End with a natural and meaningful conclusion. They say people only realize the value of water when the well runs dry. The same truth plays out in love. A woman may think she'll never miss a man who gave her everything, but psychology has a way of proving her wrong. The man she once overlooked, the man she thought would always be there, becomes the very man she cannot stop thinking about once he chooses himself. And here's the brutal reality. She doesn't start missing him when he's around. She starts missing him the moment he pulls away, when his silence echoes louder than his words, and when her comfort turns into regret. Let's break down the hidden psychology of how and why women miss the men they once took for granted. Step 1. Silence speaks louder than words. Silence has always carried a strange power. People assume words hold the weight, that endless talking, explaining, clarifying somehow proves love or loyalty. But when a man finally learns the power of silence, that's when the real shift happens. A woman who once took his presence for granted doesn't notice the silence at first. She thinks he's just busy, caught up in work, or maybe giving her some space. But as the hours turn into days, that silence grows heavier. Suddenly, the man who once filled her phone with messages, who always checked in, who always explained himself, is no longer doing it. And that stillness speaks louder than any long speech he ever gave. You see, silence does something that words can't. Words can be debated, dismissed, even twisted. But silence leaves no room for argument. It forces her to sit with her own thoughts, to question herself in ways she never did before. Why isn't he calling? Did he stop caring? Did I push him too far? Those questions echo louder than his voice ever did. And that echo starts turning into regret. When someone is always available, their presence becomes background noise. She feels safe, believing he will always be there no matter how she reacts. But silence removes that security. It makes her realize that his attention was never endless. It was a gift. And gifts once ignored are not guaranteed to return. This is where missing begins. Each notification she doesn't get, every call that never comes, every night he doesn't check in or remind her of what she once overlooked, what once felt overwhelming. His constant presence suddenly feels like a blessing she didn't appreciate. And here's the irony. Silence also communicates strength. It's not weak to stop explaining. It's not weak to pull away. In fact, it shows a man values his energy more than convincing someone who never noticed it in the first place. That shift changes how she sees him. He's no longer the desperate man begging for attention. He becomes the man who chose himself. And that image stirs something deep inside her. The mind plays tricks in silence. She begins replaying old memories, old conversations, old moments she once brushed aside. She realizes his presence filled more space in her life than she ever admitted. The more she remembers, the more she longs. The silence that she once thought meant nothing now becomes unbearable. So when does a woman truly start missing a man she took for granted? Not when he's chasing, not when he's arguing, not when he's explaining. She starts missing him the day he chooses silence over pleading. Because silence doesn't just mean absence. It means he's no longer willing to fight for a place she didn't value. Step 2, consistency turns into distance. Consistency is one of those quiet things in love that rarely gets the recognition it deserves. A man who shows up every single day, not with grand gestures, but with the little things. The good morning text, the late night check-in, the steady reassurance, is giving something most women don't fully notice until it's gone. At first, she feels safe in that rhythm. It becomes her comfort zone. She knows he'll be there, knows he'll call, knows he'll care, no matter how she reacts. But when something becomes too predictable, too constant, it slowly begins to feel ordinary. And that's where the danger starts. The truth is, consistency is never ordinary. It takes effort. It takes choice. It takes a man deciding every single day to keep showing up. But when that goes unappreciated, when it's brushed off like background noise, eventually he feels the weight of it. He realizes he's pouring into someone who doesn't see the gift he's giving. And that's when the shift happens. He starts to pull back, not in a dramatic way, not in anger, but quietly, slowly. The daily rhythm begins to fade. At first, she barely notices. She tells herself he's just busy or he'll come back around. She shrugs off the silence, believing the routine will continue like it always has. But over time, the absence grows louder. The good morning message that once came like clockwork no longer lights up her screen. The phone calls that used to arrive without her having to ask are missing. The comfort of his constant presence turns into a hollow gap, and here's where the missing starts. She begins to realize that his consistency was not a routine. It was a form of love. It was the foundation of her emotional security, something she didn't even realize she depended on until it was no longer there. Now, every small thing he once did feels extraordinary in hindsight. Snorts, the little gestures she ignored now, carry a weight she cannot escape. Consistency creates emotional dependency in ways we don't even notice. You don't plan for it, you don't demand it. But when someone shows up every day, your heart gets used to it. And when it disappears, nothing else feels the same. No new conversation, no new distraction, no other man can replace the steady energy he once gave. That's the brutal truth. What felt like routine to her was actually rare. What she dismissed as ordinary was a gift. And once that consistency turns into distance, regret begins. She realizes she never deserved his daily effort, but he gave it anyway. And losing it feels like losing a part of herself. That's when she starts to miss him. Not when he gave endlessly, but when the flow stopped and she was left thirsty for the water she once spilled without care. Step 3, respect grows in absence. Respect is a tricky thing in relationships. When someone is always there, forgiving endlessly, loving without conditions, it's easy to stop respecting what they bring. A woman might look at a man's patience and confuse it with weakness. She might believe his willingness to stay means he has no strength to leave. That's the mistake many make, because respect often doesn't grow in presence, it grows in absence. When a man chooses to step back, when he stops proving himself, when he walks away quietly instead of begging, something changes in her perspective. Suddenly, the same love she dismissed looks rare. The same effort she overlooked now feels priceless. She begins to see him differently, not as the man who was desperate to be chosen, but as the man who chose himself. That shift commands respect in a way words never could. Absence has this unique way of stripping illusions. When he was always there, she didn't have to think about what life would be like without him. She assumed his presence was permanent. But now, in the silence he left behind, she's forced to reflect. She recalls the countless times he showed up, the patience he carried, the sacrifices he made quietly without asking for credit. In his absence, those actions shine brighter than they ever did in his presence. And respect grows not because he demanded it, not because he shouted for it, but because he showed strength where she thought he had none. Choosing to walk away takes more courage than staying to beg. It's easy to keep chasing. It's harder to say, turn still and say enough. That's when she realizes his love was not weakness, it was choice. And choices can be withdrawn. Here's the painful part. Respect often arrives too late. At first, she might not admit it. Pride won't let her. But deep down, she feels the weight of what she lost. She sees that not everyone carries the same loyalty. Not everyone forgives like he did. Not everyone stays when things get messy. And in that comparison, his worth grows. Absence also carries dignity. When he no longer reacts to her moods, when he no longer lowers his energy to argue, she sees his strength. The same man she thought she could control now refuses to play her games. That quiet dignity forces her to respect him more than she ever did when he was chasing. And this is the sting. She realizes she underestimated him. The man she thought was easy to dismiss becomes the man she cannot stop thinking about. Respect doesn't just grow in his absence. It haunts her because now she knows he wasn't weak for loving her. He was strong for walking away. Step 4. Memories become triggers. Memories are tricky. They stay quiet when life feels full, when someone is present, when love feels guaranteed. But the moment a person walks away, those same memories come rushing back, uninvited, sharp, and heavy. For a woman who once took a man for granted, memories become her biggest reminder of everything she dismissed. At first, she doesn't notice them. She tries to keep busy. She tells herself she's fine. She may even distract herself with new people, new routines, or new conversations. But the human mind doesn't work like that. Memories sneak in when she least expects them. A song on the radio, a scent in the air, a place they once visited. Suddenly, she's back in that moment. And instead of brushing it off, she feels the sting because now those memories hold value she never gave them before. The little details start replaying, the way he laughed at her jokes, the way he noticed when she was quiet, even when she said nothing was wrong, the way he always showed up without he or asking. These things she once overlooked now feel impossible to find again. What once blended into daily life now feels extraordinary in hindsight. And here's the painful truth. Memories don't just recall the past, they relive the emotion. When she remembers him, she doesn't just think about what he did. She feels how he made her feel, the safety, the care, the comfort. And the emotional replay hurts more than his actual absence because she realizes she didn't just lose a person.